Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Banyan Technologies Tire Tracks podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Ascolis, and I'm here with Mario Kova of FastExac. Hi, Mario. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. I'm doing great.
Hey, so before we get into what FastExac is, I want to talk about who you are, Mario, where you're from, how are we talking logistics today? I know you've got a great accent. Is that New York?
Not really. I wish. Uh, I'm I'm originally from Australia. I moved here about 35 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, During kind of uncertain times behind the Iron Curtain, I was left with few choices, but to run for the border. So I try to run as far as I can to the west. Little did I know that there is Hawaii. So I ended in San Francisco instead.
Hey, that's not bad. Yeah, you could have been in Hawaii. You missed that one.
Yeah, I missed that one for sure.
And then you said, how long ago was it when you came over to the States?
That was 35 years ago.
All right. And what did you do when you hit the ground? Did you start hustling right away, or what? How'd you make a start from there?
I actually backpacked from Chicago all the way to the West Coast for a couple of weeks, and then eventually got to San Francisco. Run low on funds, and I got me a job, and eventually got hired at a freight forwarder, Perishable Freight forwarder, and I started my career in logistics through in air freight initially, and I worked in air freight until um, to, I still do some air freight stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but I kind of turned over to FastExac in the late 2000s. I just saw the opportunity for after 9/11, kind of it opened my eye. I gave it a try to expedited trucking versus air freight because of all
Mm-hmm.
the regulations and all the TSA and
That makes
Department of
sense.
Homeland Security things that delayed enormously air freight to a point that I saw the opportunity in domestic move to be handled by expedited
Mm-hmm.
team operated vehicles to move the freight across the country into Canada and all that as a much more efficient way to do it in a
Now,
way.
now you're doing Expedite now, and you were doing air before. Did that start with Perishable? Did that kind of get you a taste for we got to move this, now, or this whole load's going to be rotting?
It was actually perishables that started me with. I worked for a perishable freight forwarder, mainly moving anything that would grow in the California Valley.
Okay.
Anything from berries to artichokes, asparagus, and all kinds of stuff like that.
All
It's
the things my mom told me I needed to eat, but I didn't want to. Yeah, exactly.
yes. That's true. We did a lot of international stuff, and everything was really on demand. They will pick up all the perishables early in the morning, then hydrocool them for like 4 hours, then truck them up to the airport, and then we'll load them into containers and take them to the airlines to be flown anywhere in Europe, Australia, Japan. Back then was a big market.
Yeah.
So that's how I started it. Yes.
And then from there, I know that I've done a little bit of talking that you're a serial entrepreneur. I assume after that or shortly thereafter, you started your own business. Did you go right into kind of that freight forwarding, or did you dabble into somewhere else first?
I actually started as a local cartage agent for air freight
Mm-hmm.
handling at the airport, and that's what kind of got me started. One of my tenants was handling all of the Samsung shipments, so I pretty much Samsung kind of launched me into stardom,
Yeah.
and Yeah.
That's a good name to have. That's awesome. So you went cartage, you're doing air, and like you said, after 9/11, the regulation kind of got crazy. Was it before that? Were you just rolling up to the runway and popping into the plane, and now all of a sudden you had to go through 4 or 5 layers of security? How drastic of a change was that?
In a way, it was tender time and recovery time from the airlines got stretched out to like 4 or 5 hours before the flight. You have to tender it. And I'll give you one example of the expedited freight that we do. We had recently for a customer a Caterpillar pillar down in Dallas.
Yeah.
And the nearest part located was in Chicago. So what they did is they shipped by air, and they also put the same part on my truck, and I got there in 12 hours, and the air freight was delivered 3 hours later. So that's just give you an example of.
I love that. I can't remember the show right now. It was Top Gear when it was on the BBC, but they did one where they raced basically a guy on the airplane and somebody in a car on the highway, and they were trying to see which would get there faster. But that's an awesome example. And that's awesome that you beat the plane too. You're like, hey, you'd be halfway on the way back by there 3 hours later. That's awesome. So
exactly 12-hour transit time.
So now that we're talking about how much faster you could be on the road than some of the air situation, that brings us to FastExac. Who is FastExac? What is FastExac? What are you offering? And what does that company look like?
We specialize in a critical shipments on demand, which represent about 3 to 5%. It's a niche market of the whole ground transportation. We pretty much recover screw ups done by other logistics companies when the freight gets misrouted and it needs to be there when it needs to be there. In that kind of sense, customers come to us. We do only that. We don't do anything else. We don't do LTL truckloads and things like that. We like the space. And that's we specialize, and that's what we are known to do best, and we just stick to it.
Does that mean, with a situation like that, do you have basically alarms that go off when something's got to move? Are people jumping down fire poles and sliding into the truck to go pick up this stuff that had to be there yesterday? I mean, is every shipment kind of a controlled chaos then?
It in a sense it is, but we've invested heavily in technology where we have a very quick response to our customers within 10 minutes. We get the order and we guarantee the truck there within 2 hours. Okay. And it's a straight delivery point to point. With no stops or anything like that. Obviously, we are able to pick up Saturdays, Sundays, middles of the nights, holidays, and anything like that, which kind of sets us a little bit apart from the traditional LTL companies in the market.
Absolutely. So as far as coverage area, are you just going anywhere you need to go? I mean, I would imagine it'd be hard to get to Hawaii like we talked about over the road, but like what does that look like? Is there places where you're like, I can't keep the 2-hour guarantee, or it's across the board, you'll do it, or is it just US? Are you playing in Canada or Mexico? What does that look like as far as coverage area?
We do US, Canada, Alaska. Our market regions through an API integrations with TMSs such as Banyan and others. Basically, they pull when they query zip code to zip code. If we don't have available equipment in that area, it would not pull any results on it. So we're not gonna get queried, and we're not gonna ever overpromise to cover something when we don't have the equipment available to pick it up. So that kind of is the way that we are heading.
That's awesome. Because within the LTL space, you get quotes back for certain areas just because the API says it, and then by the time they actually can get a truck out, you're like, I wouldn't have gone with you guys if you would have just told me you don't have a truck in that area.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
And then for me, I'm a little more technology based in my past. I've been in logistics for about 3 years now, but Expedite versus Hotshot, is there a difference there, or is it the same name for this, or a different name for the same service?
It's kind of like a different name. Expedited nowadays it's used broadly in various solutions. Hotshot also is, but it's all kind of like a critical on demand ad hoc, I would say, service that we provide.
And then is there do you guys do any of the white glove? Are you unloading and getting the items off the truck? What does that look like as far as the kind of service?
Yes, we do. We work on projects that require such a thing. Obviously, some of the disposal of debris and packing and stuff like that, we try to stay away from that. But
you got to get to the next load. Yeah.
Yeah, and I cannot really put it in the API like this kind of services because it's kind of on a customer has to approach us directly.
Yeah.
The old way via email or a phone call and say, hey, can you do it? And what's going to be the cost? I cannot factor that depending on what the project is. But we do a lot of tours for bands, art exhibits that are traveling art exhibits.
Okay.
Which kind of fit in our broad spectrum when bands are traveling and they're flying from town to town, and we drive through the night to get the freight there for a sound check before the show and all that stuff. And that's all kind of very time definite and type of.
That's awesome. Who's the biggest name? Who's the biggest band that you've moved equipment for?
Oh, I don't do major ones because they require 3-4 truckloads of equipment that travel with them. I do smaller venues and smaller bands and art exhibits that fit in the size of our equipment. Yeah, I don't have major names, but I do a lot of festivals. And
do drivers get to hang out and see the show, get backstage?
Yes. Awesome. Eventually they get tired of it because it's the same show every night. But when they get to San Francisco, I get to be put on the list, on the VIP list. So I get to go and see show here and there.
That's awesome. I like that's a cool advantage. And kind of talking of that, so the bands and the art exhibits is cool, and I always like to ask this, especially people who move goods and have been doing it for a while. What's the craziest or most interesting thing that you've moved for somebody?
I would say it's the example that I give you with the recent example with the Caterpillar.
Yeah.
We do a lot of the automotive and we do all kinds of freight. Obviously, we stay away from the temperature control shipments. We don't have the equipment to handle that. So that's, but we still do a lot of pharma and a lot of medical equipment as well.
Yeah. And then within that, what, as you're moving to Canada, you said Alaska, what are some of the difficulties in getting shipments across the border and getting, to some of these far reaching places?
Well, sometimes wintertime, it's very hard to cross Canada when there's snowstorms and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, when there is a hurricane or snowstorm, that's when our business picks up because nobody wants to go there.
Somebody else is leaving it on the side of the road, and you got to go pick it up, huh?
Yeah, and I have to go. And we love it. We love that our business just skyrockets during this kind of things, which are unfortunate events for everybody, but our business picks up when things like that happen.
As a salesperson, where there's pain, there's opportunity. So that, you're speaking my language there. So I get that completely.
Yeah.
So you talk about, and there's other expedites in the market, but what at the core of it sets FastExac away from their competitors? What makes you, in your opinion, the best at what you do?
I would say the fast responding time and quick setup for the pickup and the delivery and the entire tracking and tracing process and customer service that we have and we rely on. We are 24/7 on the phone, online, 365 days a year.
Hey,
because that's what is demanded from us. I mean, we set up
makes sense.
the tracking 30 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hours is the most. We provide that so the customer is aware of how the freight is moving and making the time to get it delivered. So that's very important. And that's why we are heavily vested in technology from the early stages. When we started first, we developed one of the first proprietary app for our drivers, which we heavily rely on. Based on that's how we pull the availability of the equipment, the nearby, and that's how we dispatch the freight to them as well.
And is that when you decided to get some API infrastructure? Because I know that we at Banyan, you're now connected as an option within our carrier pool and our mode selection for those that decide to use or bring you on. Is API new, or when you got that proprietary app on the to your drivers, did that kind of come in a package?
The API is about 3 years old. We've been integrating with TMSs and web platforms. One of the main reasons that we are so focused on that is because we don't offer a wide variety of services, and in order for us to be we cannot really put salespeople on the ground to go knock on doors and just offering that specific service, because people say, well, can you do this and can you do that? And I'm like, no, I only do that. And API is just a natural way of us by integration. For us, vertical integration is key. And the more we integrate, the more end users have access to our rates and visibility of, and it's a value-added service. Not that they need it constantly and every day, but when they do, they know it's available for them, and they can access us through their TMSs in-house, and it's just been opening doors for us.
Yeah. No, I'm smiling for two reasons. A, you're doing a great job of talking about why you should have technology in place, and I don't have to promote it. You're doing it for me, as a Banyan back talker here. But also, I was thinking of, as a salesperson, if you had salespeople going out, it'd be like, hey, when you're having a terrible day, keep this card. Don't ask me any questions. Just when nothing else works, give me this card. It's like a bat signal almost. It's almost what you got to put out there. They got to pick up their red phone and call the mayor, right? And I got an emergency and I got to move this, Mario. Help me. No,
right.
Yeah. And then so use cases, we talked about it, a little bit, when you got to have it there and there's no other option. Is that the only time? Or you also talked about like bands, when that's more of like a project freight or something that you have going on and it's time sensitive. When are the times that someone that hasn't used FastExac and is using the Banyan system, when would they ideally be looking to take advantage of your services?
We kind of live in the normally in the marketplace, or some people call it the bazaar place, where the LTL carriers are. So when an end user puts a zip to zip, and obviously if they want to select the fastest transit time, that's when we go on top. Otherwise, we are kind of on the bottom because it's not cheap. Our services are not
you either get it cheap. you get it quick. It's one or the other. You get both. Never let go of that relationship.
Right.
But yeah, no, you're paying for that. And then we're kind of coming into hurricane season here, but without a little bit of that seasonal, what does expedite rates look like? Has it gone up? Has it gone down? Was there a giant shift during COVID like we saw with LTL and truckload? I would assume there is, but I'm not familiar with the expedited world like you would be.
COVID years were one of the best years that we ever had.
We hear that a lot, from a lot of the providers.
We didn't get any bans or anything like that, but everything else was just rocking, and that's we kind of fit in that category.
And then I was to say, was there a cliff after things got back to normal where the rates dropped back down and the people's need for you dropped back down, or was it because a lot of the people that we talk to in the LTL and the truckload space, the rates aren't where they'd like it to be as far as a provider. They'd like the rates to go higher. I think shippers are okay with it, but what is it like nowadays? And does that matter to Expedited, or do you guys live kind of on the outside of that normal pendulum between carrier preference and shipper preference?
Well, we are demand sensitive as well, like everybody else. Rates have come down and have settled. I like it. I like keeping my customers happy. Mm-hmm. I like to offer them a great service at a very accessible rate, and it's a win-win for everybody involved.
Hell yeah!
And I kind of like it. I really not looking to get some crazy rates out there. I know inflation is a big factor and everything is more expensive, but I've tried to keep our rates. We're making okay, mm-hmm. And I think greed at the end works against you. So I'd like to be compatible, and I'd like to be confident that I like my customers to be confident of the pricing that we offer and for the service we do.
And that makes a lot of sense. You want something sustainable. You want the long-term relationship. You want someone to be able to depend on you when they call you, that A, the freight's going to get where it needs to be quickly, and B, they're not going to get taken for a ride on the pricing. And then, correct. So with that in mind, as I'm an account manager, I'm talking to my brokers and my shippers, what would you tell me to tell them to convey as far as here's why you need FastExac in your carrier pool?
Like you said, if nobody else can do it, just give us a try. I mean, that's what it is. That's what we do. And it's like, and it's again, it's a very specific niche of the market. Mm-hmm. Like I said, 3 to 5% only gets moved on expedited hotshot type of scenario. But when you need it, we're there to help you and pick up where you left it and make your customer happy. Again, we only work with brokers and freight forwarders. We don't work directly with shippers, and it's never been our market.
Good to know. I won't talk to my shippers about it. Thanks for clarifying. Otherwise, I'd have to be like, I got this great idea. Wait, no, I don't. I'm just kidding. Forget you heard that. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, obviously, we'll help. We'll be happy to help them. But again, our bread and butter is the brokers and the freight forwarders. That's the space we live in. Shippers are welcome, obviously. But
no, I get you. You generally play in the other space. So the conversation that I have on these podcasts, it's a lot of me asking questions and getting what I want out of it. What I'd like to do, what I always do, is give you an opportunity. What would you have to say to anybody listening, whether it's about the logistics industry, whether it's about, the world as you see it, or your journey from where you started to where you're at now? Use my platform, get on the soapbox. What have you got to say to the world, Mario?
A lot of people say that things are not well and things are not doing well, but listening back to my grandparents and my parents, they all say that. I remember it since I was little. World is going to an end and all that stuff. I think business is good. There is a lot of opportunity. Economy is alive and vibrant, in my opinion, in my view. That's what I want to say to the world.
Mario, I love it. That was awesome. And I definitely can resonate with take it from Mario. The world is not going to end. They've said it's going to end before. They said it's all going, but business is good and life is good. That's a great message. Exactly. I like that. Now, before I get into the final takeaway here, we're having our conference not only in tropical downtown Cleveland, having it in hot Atlanta, but also getting out to Las Vegas. Are you going to be joining us when we go to Vegas this year?
I'd love to be in Vegas with you guys, and I'd love to provide some sponsorship to the event if there is opportunity for that. And I can't wait to see you and mingle with your customers and possibly address any questions or anything that curiosity that they have about what we do and how we do it.
That's perfect. I'll be there. I'll be the one with the shiny head, and you can make me by the first round. With that in mind, Mario, thank you so much, everybody. Mario Kova of FastExac. When you can't get your things to move and you need it there fast, talk to FastExac. Mario, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me.
This has been Patrick Skolis with another Banyon's Tire Track podcast. If you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you let me know that you're actually listening out there. And I appreciate everybody who gets on this and gets to watch. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Mario.